Hello, my friends out there in YouTube land. I'm Robert Hamm, and here's another Check Out My Camera. And today I have something really quite special for you. This is the Check Out My Camera of the Minolta X570. Now, whenever you go and get a camera, it's always nice to have a little bit of history about it. This camera actually came from my uncle. So I picked up this camera and kit from him in exchange for a portrait session and some prints for his family. And if you have any idea, I jumped on it as quick as you possibly could. That was a great opportunity for me, especially considering I'm starting to shoot a lot more for my pleasure in film, right? And so this camera was a really interesting camera to come into. I have a couple of additional cameras. This one is different because it is not a completely mechanical camera, with the fact that it's electronically controlled with integrated circuits, specifically for its shutter mechanism. So it winds regularly, but it won't actually actuate the shutter unless you're using two little batteries, the 357 battery types. And the reason for this is quite simple. The camera came out around the early 80s. I want to say 84, but I really think it was 82, as a successor to the X700, which was hailed as being an amazing automatic camera with a full auto TTL metering with the flash. And so this came out as a successor to it a couple years later and updated a few things. And one of the big things that was happening in the 1980s at the time was the integrated circuits. You know, the computerized electronics were really dominating the market, and this camera was one of the first cameras that was really hailed to take advantage of that and really put it out there. So it's exciting. I haven't shot any film with it yet, but let me just kind of tell you a little bit about what we've got. I've got a 50mm f1.7 lens here by Minolta, a really nice looking lens. It's very cool. It's rubberized, nicely dampened, and it's got a long turn. If you see, for me to go from all the way from zero there, it's a little over one halfway to go from infinity, from close-up macro focus right around 1.5 feet to infinity. So that's a lot of travel on that ring right there, which is really nice. So that's the standard lens that came with it. My Uncle John at the time also purchased a 28mm lens. This is a Seiko 28mm lens, and there were a lot of different Japanese companies that were making these lenses at the time. There's even a 2x converter right here, which is really nice, also a Seiko. And then there's a Rokunar, or Rokunan, or a Etna Rokunar, 75 to 300. Now check that out. So this is an internally focusing lens, completely internal. For something like that today, you know, you'd pay quite a bit more money to have an internally focused lens than a lens that would just kind of telescope out. It even has a nice little lens hood right there, which is kind of cool. That comes out. And of course, you focus by twisting it left to right, and you zoom by pushing it in and out. That's neat. When you continue looking at it, we even have the Auto 372 or 132. This is the Auto 132PX, which is really cool. So this camera was set to have TTL functionality through the lens right here with the flash, which was cool. And one of the upgrades that this camera offered over the X700 series, which was purportedly the top of the line series, one of the upgrades that it had, or one of the additional abilities, was to be able to have more control in an automatic setting, specifically the ability to control your aperture and have an aperture priority automatic TTL metering, rather than a full automatic, which in the X700, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I am, you can tell me about it because I don't have the X700, but from what I've read, you were not able to access any of the manual functions. You weren't able to have an aperture or shutter priority when you were in full automatic on the X700. And that was one of the cool things about the X700 that really brought photography to more of the enthusiast, is that you would be able to take and get consistent results specifically with flash. Now, when I hold these things, originally, they kind of feel, let's talk, oh, before we get into that, this is the auto winder right here. So I don't know what the number of the auto winder. It's just the auto winder G series. It goes on the camera, and it's pretty cool. Now I want to talk a little bit about build quality. So I've got a lot of digital cameras today that are solid steel and magnesium. And they're very heavy. There's a lot of stuff to it. This camera is not very heavy at all, and you could be forgiven for thinking that there was a lot of plastic in it. In fact, it took me a while of looking around it to realize that there's not a lot of plastic in it. There's just plastic over the things that you touch. So this is a full metal frame camera, but it's reinforced on the outside in some areas with plastic in order to make it lighter. And it doesn't have to have all the clockwork mechanisms for the shutter either, because it's electronically controlled. So they probably are able to save some there. One of the other things that I like about it is that it has a cloth shutter in here. I don't know, maybe you can, maybe you can't see that. I don't know, but it's got a cloth shutter, and that's pretty cool. The light sealing looks really nice, but the door, even though it's got plastic and rubber on the outside, is solid metal. The whole thing is metal, except for the parts that you touch, like the little grip. That's plastic, and you can feel it. And then the little winder arm, that's also plastic. Anyways, the point that I was making is it doesn't feel as substantial right out of the gate. Not until you start to actually hold it and kind of twist it, and when you look at it. So when you first pick it up, if you're expecting something really dense and heavy, you won't get that. So it was quite a bit lighter than the other cameras that were out at the time. And it's, I gotta say, after holding it and messing around, it is solid. The tolerances are tough. The same thing went along with this nice Auto 132 PX flash. When I first picked it up, it's a plastic bodied flash, and it just didn't feel so very substantial. But the clicks are good. Even the little dial on the back is really nice. But what happens is you kind of start to appreciate that. There's no rattle in here. This thing's 25 years old. There's no rattle. You know, maybe 35 years old. Heck, I don't know. Yeah, almost. 33 years, 32, 31 years. This thing's like 30 years old. And it is just built solidly, you know. And I got to tell you, the winders is also like the body, except you feel quite a bit more metal on it. It feels quite a bit more metal. Definitely solid and robust. When you look at the way this thing's put together, you know, the batteries come out. Without the batteries, you know, it feels a little light. But man, the minute that you get this thing put together, you grab the auto winder and put on here, and then you put on the flash, and you start to see how this system really begins and comes together. And now you've got something that is really quite a bit different than what it is just on its face value. And what I mean is, now this feels excellent in the hand. It's got the weight that I want. You know, there's no autofocus, so a little extra weight in it's going to help you when you're just trying to keep still. The additional grip from the auto winder, although it doesn't seem to add any ergonomics, definitely gives you a better purchase on the camera. It feels excellent. Both hands can get on here nicely. That is something I can't say about digital cameras today. You know, the X Pro 1, which does have a lot of space on the left of the grip, opposite the side of where you would push the button, the shutter button, does not have a grip like this that comes with it. Of course, there are additional grips that you can get, but this, my friends, this feels good. Putting that right there, this feels really good. I gotta tell you. And oh man, that looks good right there too. I like it. And then having the flash on the camera right here. Obviously, you're going to need a flash on any kind of camera if you want to get the best results for any situation. But this is just a really nice piece of kit to have. It just works well together and it feels good. And so I can appreciate all of that with this. So this is, I guess what I'm trying to say is, this, when Minolta came out with this, they were considering with the auto flash and they were considering with the auto winder a way to give someone ample reach into the professional range. This is very much so a pro camera, not a top of the line pro Pro camera. It wasn't the most expensive, but this is one of your more bridge cameras from prosumer, you know, enthusiast photographer, amateur into pro. You know, it was perched right at number 2 on Minolta's own charts. However, in many ways, this camera is quite superior to the X700, specifically because of being able to have some manual control in automatic mode. Specifically, when you want to auto TTL through your flash and you want to shoot in a party and you want to be on your auto mode, you set it to A, and it automatically selects a shutter speed of 1/60th of a second because that's the flash sync speed. But if you were working in any other mode, you could, well, I'll just have to test that out because I haven't done it, but it gives you the ability to set different things like your shutter speed specifically. So it gives you aperture priority mode. So it gives you aperture priority automatic through the lens metering. That's what it gives you. So it's not like the camera is going to pick everything like on the X700. You didn't have that. So you were either shooting fully manual or fully automatic. Here, at least with the X570, you get the aperture priority automatic with TTL, which is great. So even though you put it in auto, it's going to stay on 1/60th of a second. And as you change your aperture, it's going to adjust the power output from its max to its minimum within 1/60th of a second to give you the brightness that you need in order to get a correct exposure. At least that's the way that I understand it to work. I'm really excited about this camera as a system. It feels good. This is how I shoot regularly with my X Pro 2, my XT1. I have this and the battery grip. And with my X100S and my X Pro 1, of course, those are rangefinder kind of styles, no battery grip. And this is the way that I feel like I do most of my work with my digital cameras. And this is how I feel. So it feels very natural behind the lens right here, and I really do quite enjoy it. So guys, I hope that you've enjoyed this. Check out my camera. I'm really excited about it. I also got a bunch of filters. I'm looking forward to playing with that. You know, hey, talk to me about film down there. If you guys have some suggestions on the type of film that you think would be great with this right now, I'm just experimenting with Fuji Supra. I know that that's not specifically the best film, at least that's what people say, but I've enjoyed shooting it. I've enjoyed shooting it so far. The idea would be to get some portrait at some point. What do you think about black and white? You know, I mean, I kind of wonder if it's not more important to shoot black and white because I can develop it myself. There's just lots of questions, and I'm enjoying this journey myself. So I'm inviting you to come along with me, and I'll take some of your thoughts into consideration as I go forwards. So if you have any, drop them down in the link below, in the comments below, I should say. I'm Robert Hamm with RobertHammPhotography.com. You can catch me over on Twitter at RobHammPhoto. You can even find me on both Facebook and YouTube at /Robert Hamm Photography, and check out my camera. This is the Motorola X570. Guys, thanks for watching, and as always, keep shooting, my friends.